Thanks for coming back for another, actually your last, inside look at the cast and crew from the First Step movie with the director this time, Jerry Loncon. Jerry, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Jenilee. As always, it is an honor and pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you because you are the man and the mind behind the mission. And so thank you for coming, and I want to hear a little bit about you. Obviously, we've seen the movie, or people are going to be seeing the movie, and so knowing what your heart behind it was and your vision is just a huge part of this journey. And so why don't you tell us, how did you get into this to begin with?
Oh, that's a very long explanation. See, I can make that short. I started making movies when I was about 4, which is a really, really, really long time ago. Making movies before videotape, before, King Kong was made before I made my first movie.
Stop.
Just barely. Ever since then, I've had the driving urge. God has put the urge in me to do this, to tell visual stories. And then I went through, Super 8 film, actually hand-drawn stuff, Super 8 film, VHS, the big quarter-inch, before VHS, big quarter-inch tapes that you'd have to put in a VCR that was on a cart. You had to push around, it was so big.
Wow.
Up until the digital stuff now, I've always been driven to create visual stories, to make movies.
Wow. Okay, so now what you just described sounds like a lot of work and cumbersome to work with, but what was it like going from what we'll call old school movie making equipment to the digital stuff now?
There's no comparison.
Is it harder now or easier?
Oh no, the first real movie I made on film was when I was in 7th grade, and to edit the film, you had to cut it with scissors and then splice it with Scotch tape. There was film tape we couldn't afford, so we'd use Scotch tape. That's how you edited a film back then. And even the professionals, even the old school days on film, you had to physically cut the film, splice the film to create an edit. Today with digital, it's a piece of cake. It can still be cumbersome, but it's much easier cumbersome.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so then give us a little bit, take us into the journey of how you got to this movie, The First Step. And obviously you can't give away all the spoilers and whatever, but tell us kind of what traveled through your heart and mind as you were creating this.
Well, God kept telling me to take a leap of faith, basically. He has been driving me my entire life. It has always been said by a very wise man in my life that if you want to know what God has planned for you, for your destiny, look back and see what He's trained you for. Well, obviously, He's trained me for this my entire life. Where most people will doodle, people when they get bored, they'll doodle on a piece of paper or do something. I would make videos or plan videos constantly is what I did. So God's been training me for this my entire life. Through a bunch of different job situations and medical situations, it finally came to a point where God said, you know what, it's time. I kept asking, why can't I do it? He said, wait. And I had to learn things. I had to be around things. I had to mature as a person. And finally he said, go, run. And so I started this movie company, and I wasn't sure what we were going to do. We started trying to do some little commercial projects, and they weren't really working out. And Julie, my wife, and my top producer reminded me, keep ye first God in what you're doing. I had promised God that if you let me do this, I'll do things for you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing commercials, wasn't doing that, and it wasn't really paying the bills. So, and we weren't getting enough to pay the bills. And she said, well, maybe we should go back to what we talked about doing. The reason you stepped out of your paying job, real job, to do this. And so I said, okay, we were on our drive to Atlanta to a film conference, a Christian film conference at that point last year. We made the commitment, you know what? Okay, we're putting aside these commercial things. We're not going to try to get any more commercial projects. We're going to make films that have a connection to God, the thing we always wanted to do. And once we made the decision, we went to the conference, got back home, and I got an email out of the blue from a writer named Brandon Newman in Houston. A award-winning writer. He's actually won an Emmy.
Wow.
And he said, hey, I don't know you, but I've got this script, and maybe you might want to think, would you look at it and see if you might think about making it? And so he sent us the script, and it was not titled The First Step at that point. It was titled something else. And it was a base script. Had a very good base story to it.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at it, it's like, hey, this has definitely got possibilities. And when we talked to him and he got excited, we got excited. We had to make a few changes early on just for reasons, and then the script continued to grow and as we fleshed it out, and it became this. I say this in the most loving terms. It became this beast. It went from a simple short film script over a year ago to a feature film that had a cast and crew of over 85 people.
Wow.
It grew huge. Wow. And it is entirely consumed my life for the last year. It's 24/7. Every waking and sleeping moment I am living this film.
You're dreaming about it too?
Oh, you have no idea. Every character in the film became alive to me, became a living person before we even cast them. And so when we were casting people for these roles, God would tell me that person or that person. And my method of direction when I directed these actors on set, is I would introduce them to their characters. Because I knew their characters. I knew David and Allison and Kendall and Marley. I knew them. They were real people to me. We'd had dinner, we'd talked, we'd hung out. I knew them. I knew everything about them. So all I had to do was introduce the actors and actresses to their characters. And it was, you'd see a spark when they realized what was going on. And then when we got on the set, this always gets me. I watched them come alive. And I got to see them in real life. As these people brought these characters who I lived with for so long to life. And that's something I'll never forget. It may happen again down the road, it may not, but I will never forget meeting not Chad and Joe and Ken and Anthony and Lakin, but meeting David and Allison and meeting Kendall and Marley, meeting them in real life. It was amazing.
It sounds something similar like when someone is pregnant and they're expecting a child and it has a name and they dream about it and they imagine and the baby's finally here and you're like, oh, just that moment. Is that something similar maybe?
Well,
You've never been pregnant,
could
so
I compare
there's
this
that.
to getting a dog? Because
okay, we'll go with the dog.
that might be the same thing. No, I assume it's the same thing. It's something that God told me was coming, and He showed everything. He gave me the title of the film.
Wow.
He gave me most of the changes we made came from God.
Wow.
And God would speak to me very directly. I'm not one of those people that, God spoke to me, but God speaks to me. He usually when I'm working out, I'm on a treadmill or I'm running or I'm on a bike or I'm in the shower. Those are my times when my mind goes into neutral and God says, okay, you've stopped thinking, here's what I want. And things will pop in my head fully formed.
Wow.
And when that happens, I know that's God. I'm never going to say I did anything. I didn't do anything in this film. God did everything, and the people around me, the team, that we put together, that God put together, because He gave us every person on this team. God sent to us and said, "This is where I want this person."
Yeah. So what is your goal? And I know we heard from your wife Julie before, and so we got to hear her take on what she would love to see happen. What is your vision? What are you wanting to see happen from? Obviously, this is your first step, if you will, into this calling of your life. So it's very multifaceted. But what do you want to see the Lord do with this?
I want to see Studio 220 Films as an actual physical movie lot. We have a place, we want to build it. We were in church 6 months ago maybe, and our Pastor Nathan he did a message where they handed out blank checks. And the amount was blank, but it was signed by God. And it was, put something on this check that you believe there's nothing you can do. You can't do it without God. There's no way. People would write different things, and we wrote, we want Studio 220 Films to reach the world. That was my blank check, and I have that. It sits next to my computer all the time.
Wow.
That I have a check from God that says, Studio 220 Films is going to reach the world, and we can do that now with the internet and things like that, but we still would love to have a physical location to build sets, to build interview spots so that we don't invade your home and move all your things off to the side. So we can have things like that. Professional. My goal has always been to be professional. Everything we do, we want to act like we are already a full-size movie company from California, because you dream big as God tells you that's what He's got planned. So we're going to live up to that. We have. Sometimes I feel like we're a little league team playing in the World Series, because we're playing with the big boys, but we're using the same tools and all the procedures that we're doing. We're doing the same way they would do it. I do not want to be. Nothing against local films. Nothing. There's been some great ones, all from all over the world. People make little films, and that's nothing wrong with that. They do better stuff than me a lot of times. I don't want to do that. I want to be bigger. I want our company, I want our production studio, I want our film studio to be bigger, to be able to reach people. And we keep doing things. All through this project, people told us, you can't do that. There's no way you can't do that. You can't get 80 people and make a film this big. You can't do that.
Especially on a no budget.
And no budget, And but God never told me it was impossible. And until God tells me we can't do it, we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so people keep looking at us like, I can't believe y'all, you got a local film that had 100 people in it. And no, it's not me.
Yep.
It's not me. It's God doing that. And God keeps saying go. Until God says stop, we're going. So my dream is for Studio 220 Films to be as big as it is in my head.
Yeah.
We want a physical location. We want sets. Capernaum Studios, we don't want to take over from Capernaum Studios. That's ridiculous. But we want to be like that. We want to be able to do big projects and have a craft services and have wardrobe. And Laken Ungoria, one of our actors who plays Marley, she came up to me and she goes, I just want a trailer. Can you promise me that whenever we get big, I'll have a trailer? I said, yes, I promise you. When we get big, and it's not if, it's when, you will have a trailer. And she got so happy. A trailer that she can just go into and get dressed.
Yeah.
That's what a trailer. Instead of dressing, because we know we dress in bathrooms or behind dressers. But we act like we're who we see in our head.
I love it.
So.
Well, and really everybody who has done anything great, Elon Musk, that started as a dream, that started as a vision. The Capernaum Studios, the Chosen, that started as a dream. And so you're right where you should be, and you're just putting feet to the obedience, and it's the Lord's job to feed the multitude, right? Okay, well, let's get into some specifics then about the movie. What would you say was your favorite scene of the movie?
Favorite scene of the movie was a scene I cannot talk about.
Darn.
It is a scene that I call the gut punch.
Okay.
Of the movie.
Okay.
It is a scene that if I don't have 95% of the audience in tears at this scene, I failed as a director. But I don't think that's going to be the case, because the scene we should hand out tissues at the door.
Okay.
For this scene.
So why is that your favorite if it sounds like it's like a heavy, intense one? Is it meaningful to you?
It is heavy and intense, but it's also joyful. And the emotions that are displayed are, I can't even describe them. It's one of these things that you'll know when you see it. I promise you know when you'll see it. I won't have to point it out to anyone.
Okay.
When you see it and when you watch it in the theater and that was what he was talking about. It's very obvious. The whole movie is fantastic.
Okay.
But this scene will just reach into people's chest, just pull out their heart. So
okay.
I'm not going to thump my chest.
So what would you say, if that was your favorite scene, what was the hardest scene? Either to watch or to produce? I mean, you're the director, so, maybe direct, from your perspective, what was the hardest scene for you?
The hardest scene, that's actually a fairly good question, because that could be construed as the most frustrating scene, as there was a scene that actually is kind of a part of the one I just talked about, but part of the scene involves a stuffed animal. And I believe Chad talked about this in his interview. And I went into this scene with the thought of how I wanted this to happen. I wanted something with a stuffed animal to happen. I had a plan how to make it happen. And because the type of director I am, I let everyone have an opinion, which is not a normal director thing. And Sometimes now I know why, because everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
And I want to hear them. But what should have taken 3 minutes took an hour and a half. So everybody kept saying, no, try it this way. No, try it this way. No, try it this way. Eventually we went back, and our director of photography, Travis Myers, he just got frustrated, and he went and just threw it on the ground. Not threw it on the ground. He put it on the ground. Let's do it this way. We didn't. In the end, we shot it exactly the way I said we needed to shoot it in the beginning, but it took 90 minutes. And with the film we were shooting, it was time. Time was always your enemy, because you're trying to get so much done. And since it was my first big film with multiple cast people, figuring that time was hard for me.
Yeah.
You know, I had to think, okay, how long is this going to take without any experience as far as, you know, I'd shot a lot of films, but they've been very small cast or very small amount of people. This was a huge production. I had to figure out how much time. And I got fairly close most of the time. This scene was 90 minutes of, in the end, it was 9 minutes of wasted time.
Yeah.
But there was some fun. There were some funny things. Some of these suggestions that we tried, because the problem, I let them try everything. Let's try it this way. Okay, let's try it. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But it was funny. And then, no, let's do it. We kept doing it, and some of them were really funny. There is a blooper reel. I'll have to let you watch.
Yes, please.
I don't think we'll show it at the
Can we
theater.
at the premiere?
No, because I think it has kind of a different mood, and there's a mood at the end of the film that I want to. Everything about the film tells a story, obviously, and it creates emotions. And I want to keep those.
Okay.
But it'll be available afterwards for people to watch it.
Okay.
And it'll make more sense, because the gag reel, they're called gag reels, gives everything in the movie away.
So it'll be important that people are on your email list, because you'll probably email that out to people.
Yes, that is correct.
That will be important.
That is
Okay.
a good point.
So now we mentioned that this is a no-budget film. What does that mean for people that are not in the film industry? Because everything you just described about wanting to have a lot, wanting your movies to reach the world, you can't do that without money, practically speaking, literally. So how are you guys doing this?
There are different levels of budget.
Okay.
You have Hollywood blockbusters, which are multi-million, I mean, multi-hundreds of million. Then you have big budget movies. Then you have small budget movies. Then you have micro budget movies. And then you have no budget movies.
Okay.
We are considered a no budget movie. Now, I will tell you that this film, to date, has cost over $16,000 to make.
Okay.
A lot of that money came in through a crowdfund. Not all of it. Julie and I are paying for a large chunk of it now out of our pockets.
Yeah.
And it's money we don't have. I'm just going to be honest. It's money we don't have. We're trusting God that if God told us to do this, He's going to provide.
Yeah.
And so far, He's come through every time. I say so far. That does not mean to sound like I don't doubt He will. I have no doubt He will. But that's what we've been doing, is paying for it out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
And a no-budget film, it's anything under, I think, $20,000.
Okay.
And we're at $16,000 right now, but we're considered no budget. A micro-budget movie starts at $20,000 to $25,000.
Wow.
So films, yes, they take money,
Yeah.
and all of our cast and most of our crew worked for free. We weren't paying our actors. I hate that. We were paying our director of photography, because he's worth it. Everyone was worth getting paid, but he is a professional. We are paying for our score, our original score, music being written for the film, and that music is beyond amazing. Yeah, this
I
person,
can't wait to hear it.
this person, he's an 18-year-old kid from not Alabama. He's from Georgia. He's an 18-year-old kid. He just reached out, or my wife found him on Facebook, reached out to him. I thought he was a much older person. I'm glad I didn't know his age before I started talking to him, because I wouldn't have given him as much. I probably wouldn't have done it. It would have been the biggest mistake of my life, because God sent him to us. This kid, his name's Joseph Caudle, and you've already talked to him. He's going to be famous. He's going to be one of those big time, in 5-10 years, he's going to be one of those people composing music for these multi-hundred million blockbuster movies. He's that good. So we paid him, obviously.
Yeah.
So we paid for music. We've had to do some payment for sound and for the visual. Technical things we've really had to pay for.
Now the locations, did you have to rent locations?
We had to rent only one location. And it wasn't even for film, it was for taking pictures. Because there's a wedding in the movie, but you don't see the wedding per se. You only see it in a memory. But we needed pictures from their wedding to be in their house as a prop. To do that, I need to take wedding pictures. So we basically dressed the characters up in their wedding clothes and took pictures.
Wow.
And that location we had to rent.
Okay.
Which again wasn't a lot, but it was still money. Every other location we shot at was people there graciously said, "Come in, shoot, clean up, turn the lights off when you leave."
That's awesome.
That was Parkway Church in Lumberton, Las Prima Restaurant in Nederland, where we shot their date scene. They gave us their whole place. That was amazing.
That is amazing.
And things like that. We shot in different places of that nature, and we made do. We had to be innovative in a lot of places to get these things done.
Wow. So now kind of my final question for you is, people come, they watch the movie. Actually, I have two questions before I get to that one. People have asked me, where can we go see the movie? They want to go to the theater and see the movie. How can people see the movie?
The premiere of the movie will be August 26th at the Jefferson Theater in Beaumont. There will be a right there. Since I'm editing this, if I'm doing my job right here somewhere, there's going to be a link they can go to.
Okay.
Studio220films.com, which will give them a link to go to a place they can reserve a seat, if there's any left at this point, to see the premiere.
Okay.
After it shows there, it will probably be available on digital. It will at some point be available on digital. We're going to try and shop it to some streaming places.
Okay.
And we're going to enter it into some festivals.
Okay.
But a lot of festivals have a rule that it cannot have been shown publicly, and that rule I'm not going to follow, because
I was going to say, will the red carpet premiere count as that?
I believe this film, it does. I believe this film is more important. I want people to see this film versus it do the circuit and get paper awards, but no one sees it. God had us make this film for people to see. And so I want to get out there. So eventually it will end up on digital. It may be YouTube, it may be Vimeo, it will be somewhere. It may be a month or so, I'm not sure. But yes, people will be able to see it. Everyone will be able to see it.
So that's another reason why they should be on your email list. That way they can find out when they can watch it.
That is correct.
I feel like I keep making those plugs. Okay, so my last final thought is, people come, they see the movie. It goes around. More people than you expect will watch this movie. What will make you feel like it was a success and it did its job?
Honestly, what will make me feel like it's success, and this is going to get me too, and my wife who's over here on the side is going to already start crying, is when I die and get to heaven. And the first person comes to me and said, "Thank you." Because of the movie, it didn't make us go, "Oh, I'm going to put my life to Jesus," but it made me think, and I started a journey that took 20 years until someone finally led me to the Lord. But your movie was the first step. That, and then there'll be someone behind him, and someone behind that person, someone behind that person. That is when I'll rest.
Yeah, amen.
So.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, thank you for coming on here and sharing your heart and sharing your vision and sharing your story. And my hope for you and my prayer for you is that people will catch your vision, especially those who want to come alongside of you and push it out and bring life and give legs to your dream. And so thank you guys for joining us. This again was Jenilee Loncon, the director of Studio 220 Films, The First Step, the movie. And if you guys would like to stay in touch, as we've made it clear in the interview, you need to be on the email list so you can get all the updates. You can be a part of any future projects that he will be doing. He already has some in the works, and you could even potentially be a part of those, acting or whatever, maybe writing the score. So thank you for following us. Make sure you're following them also on social media, and we will see you guys later.